Gone are the days when you could say you need to be wearing a suit to make a point. I think you can do it in couture. And I think you can be in heels and still be 10 steps ahead.
Money doesn't buy happiness.
They don't know where to shop. They literally don't know where to shop. Send them my number. I will tell them your perfect day or my perfect day. And he said, write it as if it's your perfect day for 24 hours. And he said, be as graphic, as detailed as you want. And I said, fine. So I went ahead and wrote about 8 pages. And Sheen, I kid you not, 80% of that has come true. People who fly private don't post. And I was like, okay, interesting. Sat on it, mulled over it, and then I wrote a post about it. And I said, my daughter said to me, people who fly private don't post. And I said to myself, people who've earned it should and do. In the million times that I walk into a meeting and my CEO, who's a man, is with me, and they'll just naturally assume that he's the one making the decisions. So all the conversations, all the eye contact will be with him, which is hilarious for me and him. Well, I think it's a little more uncomfortable for him because he kind of like looks at them very sheepishly and then says, Mrs. Ved, what do you think? And then they kind of realize that, I wish my father could be every girl's father. He really knew how to bring out the best in me, and he made sure that there is no dream police. So I don't understand, why do you need to restrict what you think
What are
about?
the limits?
Which one would you rather be, where life happens to you or you make life happen? So I'm definitely on the side where you make life happen.
Hello and welcome back to the show. If you're new here, I'm Sheen, your host, and today I want to talk to you about something very exciting. How do one person create an amazing empire, run it like a boss, have children, and still look super fabulous? We don't know, but we'll find out today because our guest has done this and so much more. Please join me in welcoming the woman behind Apparel Group, which is one of the leading retail conglomerates in the region, with over 2,000 stores across 14 countries and representing more than 85 brands. Please join me in welcoming Sima Ved. Hi, Sima.
Hi, Sheen. Thank you so much for having me. And can we please stress on the fact how fabulously I dressed for you?
That's what I meant, right? And she even matched her phone cover, by the way.
I did. I am that person now. I tend to wear phone covers according to what I'm wearing.
I love that. But tell me, how is that actually? I'm just going to start with this because you brought it up. How is it balancing your femininity as a leader?
I just think it's sad when women that I've met before think that they need to look like a man in order to command or be in authority. And I think that is a perception that we really need to kill. Because to me, if you're not going to celebrate your difference, then what are you going to celebrate? Like, why give them an opportunity to compare you to them? You aren't them. We are us. And we should embody who we are. So I just bring it all out. I mean, you'll see me in, my want of better designers, but I'll be in Dolce, I'll be in Hermes at the office, completely unapologetic. Yes, I should wear more of my own brands, as my husband tells me, and I would, but it's just that, okay, I have grown up wearing these kind of brands, and I feel like my style evolved thanks to a lot of the couture, and I feel, gone are the days when you could say that you need to be wearing a suit to make a point. I think you can do it in couture.
I love that.
And I think you can be in heels and still be 10 steps ahead.
I love that. But have you ever faced any kind of, like stereotypes when you are in any kind of meeting situations where people will assume that you are not as good as you are at your job just because you look very feminine?
Of course. I mean, you mean the million times that I walk into a meeting and my CEO, who's a man, is with me, and they'll just naturally assume that he's the one making the decisions. So all the conversations, all the eye contact will be with him, which is hilarious for me and him. Well, I think it's a little more uncomfortable for him because he kind of like looks at them very sheepishly and then says, Mrs. Ved, what do you think? And then they kind of realize that, that's a shift of power there. Like we've got to actually address it to her rather than him. Same thing happens when we walk into a party now and I'm with my husband, and they will beautifully like sit there pitching, giving their elevator pitch to my husband. And if it's a brand, he'll just turn around and look at them and go, actually, you need to be talking to Sima. And that's when you can see the whole face going into this convulsion of like in confusion, like what? He wants us to talk to the arm candy who looks gorgeous on his arm, but he wants us to talk to her about numbers and business. And I just looked at them and smile, and I'm like, okay, now you think you're going to get an appointment? Maybe next year.
Wow. Okay. So, but have you always had this confidence, Sima, growing up?
Yes, I think I have. I attribute it to the fact that I grew up almost as an only child. My brother is 8 years older, and he spent most of his youth in India with my grandparents. So I literally grew up here as almost an only child. I don't have any sisters. So I feel like when you don't have anyone to tell you how to be, you end up being, and I hope, the most fabulous version of yourself. So I think with no one to really sort of to copy if I would have had sisters, or even my brother to tell me how to act, what to say, who to act with, I think it just left me independent, and it made me into a default setting of independence and confidence.
And how did your parents navigate this whole situation as when you were young?
As in with my brother?
No, just with you. You know how, you being a girl, we're in a Desi family. How did they put tradition first?
Not at all. My father is incredible. He is, I wish my father could be every girl's father. He really knew how to bring out the best in me, and he made sure that if my mom tried to suppress or say, why don't you try the kitchen for a change? And my father would be like, literally, I remember being 14 years old and having a fight with my mom. And my dad said, what's up? And I sat at the lunch table and said, she wants me to learn how to cook. And he looked at me and he goes, very, very clear, matter of fact, what do you want to do? And I said, I want to go to the office. And he goes, okay. He looked at my mom. He goes, leave her alone. She's going to the office. So to have a father that empowers you to that extent at that young age, it is undeniably the most impactful thing that could have happened to any young girl. So I think, having my father around who sort of let me shine and taught me that a confident, secure man, no matter what age he is and who he is in your life, should have that ability.
That's so beautiful. And one thing I've noticed is all the time, like very strong women who are very confident, who are doing very well when it comes to their own self-esteem, always have had a very supportive dad behind them. I'm the same. And it's so beautiful to see that. But now that you mention you told him you wanted to go to the office at that age, what was your dream when you were growing up? What did you want to be?
So I told my dad very categorically at the age of 8, he said to me, what do you want to do in life? And I said, I actually want to build a business. And he goes, oh, that's wonderful, thinking I want to copy him. And then I added the line, bigger than yours. And he looked at me very sort of like, that's the Sima I know, that cocky line had to be added at the end. But that was it. That's what I told him. I said, I want to build a business that's bigger than yours. He was so much a part of my reality and my dreams that I wouldn't have dreamt of doing anything differently. In hindsight, when I look back now, I think I had a knack for theater. I think I had a knack for playwriting, for theater. And, I often tell people when they ask me at interviews, what would you have done if you had not been a retailer? And I'm like, I think I would have been a producer or a director on Broadway. However, I would have been broke, but I would have been a producer or a director. So I think God had a different plan, and he wanted me to do this so that maybe in my second career, that's what I end up doing.
It's never too late, right, to get started? You're still in your prime?
Absolutely, always. And I will stay that way.
Okay, and from my research, I know that you got married quite young, right? How old were you?
I was 22.
Oh, that's young.
I was a Sindhi girl and, who had a few members of the family who weren't married, and they were the topic of every lunch and dinner because, they were sadly, they were not married, and that was the end of their lives because they weren't married and they didn't have anyone to complete them. So I succumbed and I got suckered into the whole thing about you need to get married. So I was like, okay, this is going to go one of the two ways. Either my parents are going to choose some guy at some Mumbai wedding where I'm going to have to be paraded around, like, and I always compared it to the cattle market. We bring our cows, they bring their bulls, and then we decide who's a match. And I hated it because I saw my cousins go through it. And I was like, okay, I'm not doing that. So I begged my parents. I was like, when I came back from university and I started hearing a few murmurings of, Sima, you need to get married, Sima, you need to get married. I was like, okay, let's just, think about this. I begged my parents. I said, I'll do anything, just don't take me to these Mumbai weddings, where I believe people had a lot of fun and it was great. I missed out on that, but I just didn't want to be paraded around like a cow. So I decided that I'm going to go out there and find my own mate. And I did. I found Nilesh, and we could not be more culturally different. His father is extremely conservative. They're vegetarian by birth, and they don't allow eggs or alcohol in the house. My father has champagne breakfasts, champagne and caviar breakfasts to top it off. So we could not be more different, but we were so much the same and aligned in our core values, in our way we thought about our families, the way we acted, the way we felt about the work ethic. Everything else was so well matched, that I think I couldn't have found someone better.
Okay.
Except, of course, if it's Hrithik.
Of course, but...
Let's not talk about Hrithik.
It's okay. That's a different life. But I'm going to ask now, because the whole marriage situation hasn't changed even in today's generation. And you have girls as well, I'm sure you know. And now it's even worse. I feel like everyone in my generation are struggling to find their partner, and everyone is not married in their 30s, and now the age to get married keeps being pushed later on. But my question to you is, how did you know that Nilesh was good? Because you did mention that you had so much in common, but how were you assessing that? Hey dreamers, quick pause from the convo. If you are wondering what the Dreamers Digest is, it's my exclusive online community where I share behind the scenes goodies, lessons from building this podcast, and all the juicy stuff that never makes it to the final cut. If you're not in it yet, check the link in the show notes and come join us. It's 100% free. Also, shocking fact, 89% of you watching this on YouTube right now are not even subscribed. Wild, right? So if that's you, go ahead and hit that button. It would mean the world to me. And now, super exciting news. We launched the Podcast Academy. This is where I've poured everything I've learned from taking this show to 150 million views and turning it into a real business. It's 10 powerful modules packed with tools to help you launch, grow, and actually monetize your podcast. You'll even get the chance to submit your episode for personal feedback from me and my team. If you've been thinking about starting a show or scaling the one you already have, this is your sign. Click the link in the description box below to learn more. Now, back to the episode.
So honestly, I think, you have the standard telltales, right? That every marriage help book tells you, like, how does he speak to a waiter in a restaurant? Right. How does he act with a valet at the car park? For me, the funny thing was, we got into a very bad car accident on our third date. And he got out of the car, and this woman was rushing to pick up her kids from school, and she crashed into us, and she missed me by like half a foot. And he got out of the car, and his instinctive reaction was to ask me almost 6 times, are you okay? Are you okay? Can you move your arms? Can you move your legs? Can you do this? Can you do that? All he wanted to do was check on me. He didn't care about his car. Mm-hmm. He didn't care that she had totaled it on one side. He didn't care about anything else. And that to me said so much about him as a human being, as a person, that he cared about whom he was with, and it was me. I think I decided that day that I was going to marry this guy. Because to me, I'd met so many guys in university, outside of it, after it, and they always had that one thing about, how you've seen that movie with, it's with Amir Khan, right?
Which one?
Where the guy with Kareena keeps telling her the price of his watch and the price of his jacket and the price. So, I met those people. So I was like, God, this was so refreshing to meet someone who actually cared what had happened to you. And then after that, of course, the things that he would talk about, his family, his mom, his dad, how respectful he was towards them. All of these were great ticks and great signs. And the fact that he was hardworking, he would meet me in between work. He would never give up work to meet me. Because that's the other thing. I would never settle for someone who was a couch potato and a lazy bum, because I grew up with a dad who worked day in, day out, didn't take holidays. Summer holidays were never with dad because he was always working. And he had 6 sisters to support back home for marriage. And that was his entire mission. So I think when you grow up with something like that, you kind of get a sense of someone else who kind of has the same values. And that's what attracts you.
Wow. And so would you say that you're an advocate for getting married young?
I am. And I will say this, I'm simply an advocate for getting married young for 2 reasons. One, I believe we are more, not just us, even the guys, are more pliable when we're younger. So it's easier to not just compromise, but we have more tolerance and we have more... we have more tolerance. We're able to adjust better to him and his family, etc. Whereas I think when the older we get, the more set we are. I mean, the more I want to carry my pillow all over the world to sleep on. So that's just one indication, right? What else comes along with that? So we get set in our ways. And if anyone's going to disrupt that, it's not that easy. Whereas now, if I tell my 25-year-old or 24-year-old daughter or my 19-year-old daughter that sleep on this pillow, she's okay to do it. So I'm not saying a husband is equivalent to a pillow, but I'm just saying it's easier to get them used to or get us used to something earlier than later. So I think this whole ideology of let me build my career and then let me get married, I'm not so sure about that. I feel like if you marry the right kind of guy, either you can build your fantastic career with him or alongside of him. So I don't think that we should have girls pushing the marriage age. And my second reason, like I said, your first reason is that you're more adaptable or you're more adapting. The second reason is kids. I feel like, I'm a part of YPO, and you can tell like YPO has acknowledged the fact that women go off work and go have their children. So they've pushed the membership age to 55 years as a threshold for women. For men, they've kept it at 45 years. So because they want to be equitable when they approach women. However, I think that's the part, right? We do need that time if we choose to have families, and we don't want to give up either. So doing it younger is so much more easier than doing it when you're older. That's just my perspective.
Yeah, and I mean, biologically as well, it makes more sense to have kids earlier. It's
easier. They drain you.
Yeah.
They drain you. They age you. And honestly, your body will be thankful if you do it in your 30s versus when you try to do it in your 40s.
I know. And you've done both, right?
I've done both. I've done both. God did not spare me in that sense, but he blessed me.
He blessed you.
He gave me one at 25. She's now 27. He gave me one at 33, I think. And he gave me another one at 41. He has a real sense of humor. So he's like, you know what? You look like you have too much time, too much fun. Let's just do one more at 41. So yeah.
That's your little boy?
Yes, my little boy.
Okay, yes. Amazing. But you know how you were saying how you did not want to be paraded around. You don't want to be part of the whole introduction part of getting it for marriage. What advice do you have to young women today on where to go about looking for a husband?
So I think it matters on your family values and restrictions. If you are restricted by race or ethnicity or citizenship, then of course you've got to, but I think there needs to be a whole upliftment of removing this entire shame around being on wedding sites. I don't think there's anything wrong with being on wedding sites, and I know girls who are like, no way am I. And of course, having this Indian matchmaker show on Netflix didn't do us any good because people like Sima, Auntie Sima now, everyone is like, there's no way I'm joining a matchmaker but I think it happens it happens without us even knowing about it. So I think a lot of parents have already put their kids on wedding sites or have already contacted matchmakers. I'm guilty of it sometimes. So it's just that I do believe that that's a good way, because there you can actually match, if you have restrictions. So you can match according to your community, according to your preferences. Do you want someone vegetarian, non-vegetarian, all of that. But I also think that if we're going to be open about it, then why not look at, people you work with, people who are friends with people you work with? Because, but the only thing I would say is that please don't do it with a stranger. Please don't do it with someone who has no ties to anyone around you. Because I feel those nasty surprises can set you back a couple of years. So I feel like you waste so much time and effort till you find out something so not incestuous, but it's so ridiculously scary that it's really necessary to make sure whomever you connect with, at least they should have 1 or 2 ties, or be, 3 degrees of separation or 4 degrees of separation from you.
Even from the apps. That's
Even
hard,
from the
right?
apps, yeah. I just think it's really scary to, just like how, we vet brands who want to join our portfolio. This is a much bigger decision. I don't have to see my brand partner more than twice a year or thrice a year, if that. So, and I can hand him off to a VP or a CEO to see him, but this is way different.
It is.
So we vet brands, we vet so many things. Why don't we do this?
Agreed. And you know what? I loved how you talk about you don't need to build your career before you get married, because you are the example of this. You actually built a whole empire after getting married.
But that was because my father said to me, you can't join my business.
Ooh, why did he tell you that?
So he said to me, your brother and you are so different. And he had partners at that point. And he said, I didn't want the whole confusion with the partner's daughters wanting to get involved, because my uncle had 4 daughters, not just 1.
Right.
So my dad was like, I'm going to open a whole Pandora's box where everyone's going to want to come and be a part of this. So he was a little, careful not to allow that to happen, which in hindsight, he did good.
Yes.
He did well for that. At the same time, for me, my in-laws were never of the opinion that women should work. They just didn't understand that. So, here I was, rebellious as hell, and of course, overconfident, overpowering, and intimidating to everyone around me. And my father-in-law just kind of like stood back and gave up and said, fine. So I went off and sold the jewelry that I got, or the gold that I got in my wedding. And I say this quite often, I wish I'd framed the check, but I actually needed the money. So I couldn't frame the check. It was $12,000, like 47,000 dirhams. And that was it. That was the starting working capital until my husband joined me midway. He left his family business, and that's how Apparel grew.
So what was the idea at the time when you decided to sell the gold to start it? What was your initial idea for the business?
No, so luckily for me, my father felt guilty enough kicking me out of the family business and said, you know what, I'll sub-franchise one of his brands to me. He already had the store for it in Barjuman, and he said, I'll sub-franchise it to you. And I was like, okay, fine, I'll take that. So he gave that to me, but of course I had to pay him for the stock, pay for the rent, etc. So this was the starting point of that. And Nilesh joined me, and I remember, we used to celebrate so many small wins. Every time we had a sale that was above a certain threshold, we would bring in pizza for the guys. We were selling t-shirts. I was standing there selling t-shirts, folding them. And I remember the store used to be open sometimes during sale or on weekends till about 3 a.m. because you had to set all the stock back to be ready to be opened at 9 a.m. the next day. So we would do that. So that's why now when I go around telling people, I think you can do a better job at sales, they look at me, because those who are new don't know this. They don't know the legacy. They don't know the history. But I look at them and go, I've done this. So don't look at me like as if I don't know what I'm talking about. We've sold. So we know exactly what the customer acts like, what they want to be treated as, which is why we're so insistent with our whole current mandate now. It is customer first. That's our policy now.
Wow. And walk me through Sima's mindset at the time, when you just started, you're starting from the bottom, you're building. Did you ever see this reaching the heights that is done now?
Well, 8-year-old Sima had said it, right? That I'm going to build a company bigger than my dad.
Yeah.
So I knew that was the end goal. And he was kind enough to help us so much along the way. Having said that, no, I didn't anticipate us being here. It was very funny. I did a life coaching class about 3-4 years ago, and it was with a Serbian guy, Robert Simic, and he made us do an exercise called Your Perfect Day or My Perfect Day. And he said, write it as if it's your perfect day for 24 hours. And he said, be as graphic, as detailed as you want. And I said, fine. So I went ahead and wrote about 8 pages. And Sheen, I kid you not, at least 80% of that has come true, which is insane. So this year on my birthday, Robert gave me a Mont Blanc diary, and he wrote the first note in it, just a note to wish me happy birthday. I said, you know what? I'm actually going to write out a perfect day again. So I've now written out a new one. I think it's the last one was about 5 or 7 years ago. So I wrote out a new one, and we'll just wait and see.
Oh, wow. Okay, so tell us, how do you approach this? How can we do this as well? What do we do?
So look, I'll give you examples from it. So when I wrote it as if it's happening current. So it's not something that's happened or will happen. It's something that's happening current. So, I would write things like, I get out of bed and I put my feet down and I see my black, because at that time I was building my house. So I knew all about marbles. So I put in the most expensive marble there. And just to indicate that I could afford it. So same thing I said, it took me, let's say, 120 seconds. That means more than 2 minutes or whatever, 2.5 minutes to get to my washroom. Not because I walked slow, but because it was so large. The room was so big. So you go into little tiny details like that. I'll give you another example. My trainer, I told her about this idea and she got really excited and she said, I'm going to go do this. I said, okay, fine. So she came back to me the week after and I said, tell me about what you wrote about. And she goes, I wrote that I own, because she's a trainer. So she wrote, I own this gym and, this is what. I said, why didn't you write it like, I own an award-winning gym design, which is solar powered, and every single machine in there is solar powered by a huge skylight, and everybody wants to franchise this all over the world. And she's looking at me completely like flabbergasted. She had such a look on her face. She's like, how do you do that? And I was like, there is no dream police. So I don't understand, why do you need to restrict what you think about?
What are the limits?
Yeah, why do you need to put curtail yourself or start putting boundaries? Like, you could actually go crazy with it. And that's what I did with My Perfect Day. So, and I can tell you, so I did write in My Perfect Day. And I think it was at that time, I wrote that Queen Rania and Oprah come home. Not yet, but Bill Gates did.
Yes, he did.
So I'm just thinking, okay, the universe is like, you know what? Let's have Bill Gates for now. So I just think that things do happen. It's just a matter of allowing yourself to dream big. If you're not going to dream big for yourself, who else will?
Of course. So the day Oprah will come to your house will be after she comes to my podcast.
Done.
Deal? Done.
Done. I will take that.
Yeah, I will definitely do that as well. Everyone tells me all the time, you need to really put it on paper. And I don't think I've gotten into that level of detail. You basically put metrics to it, very subtle metrics.
Not just that. I think by putting it to paper, you kind of also start realizing how much more you actually want. Because it looks so, not superficial, but it doesn't feel real till you actually put it down and then you start adding things to it. And why not? So I just think it's really sad when Naresh, my husband, says this quite often. He goes, I don't understand why people don't dream big. And especially in this day and age, even when it comes to business, you can dream big and access to capital is so much easier than what you think. So when people sit there going, I tried and I'm not getting this and I'm not getting that, I think you haven't tried either the right sources or you just haven't tried hard enough. And you don't believe in it yourself. Because I think if you believe in it, like, I've done panels where they talk about how women pitch, and there's a whole study done on how women underestimate, and their projections are always not the way the men's are, or the man is, the men's projections are. They're so much more overestimated when it comes to the men. And the women are so subdued and so scared to promise more,
Yeah.
or they're scared of under-delivering. And I just think we've got to break from those shackles.
Absolutely. And there's that other statistics that says that a man will apply for a job even if they only fulfill 20% of the requirements, but a woman won't apply even if they fulfill 80%. They'll wait for the 100%.
Isn't that sad?
Isn't that
What
crazy?
happens in marriage as well.
Really?
The guys always overreach and marry someone way above their league. Just saying. And it works out.
It does. It works out because women are also happy with the situation. But listen, going back to you getting married and you started the business, at what point did you feel like this is the pivot point now? We've made it.
I think when we moved into our Emirates Hills home, we had lived in a flat in Pardubai for 12 years.
Wow.
And we had 2 bedrooms and 1 TV room. And then, of course, the living and dining. I think I saw so many of my society or social friends come to the flat, and literally I could see the look on their faces like, this is where she lives. She's all that and this is where she lives. And yes, we chose to live there. To be honest, I have a Feng Shui consultant. She's fabulous. And she made sure that we could not and did not move till we found the perfect place. And the perfect place happened to be Emirates Hills. And those same society social friends still live in rented villas in Jumeirah. Just saying, I should go to their houses and say,
You should.
You're all that and that's where you still
live. But you're
live.
better than that.
I am. Well, I don't know. Am I? I don't know about that one. Need to self-introspect.
Yeah. But, another question I want to ask is, a lot of times people say that money doesn't buy happiness.
They don't know where to shop. They literally don't know where to shop. Send them my number. I will tell them.
So you disagree with that statement?
Completely. It's such a, it's not that money doesn't buy you happiness. I think you just can't use it to substitute happiness.
Absolutely.
So, I don't think it's about using money to be happy. I think it's about using money to live the kind of life and the lifestyle that you deserve after the amount that you have worked hard to earn it. So I just think that people have, and I know this from Robert's class as well, that a lot of people actually have a mental block against owning and having money, and I think you can afford to have that when you've been born rich. When you haven't, it's something you would never say. You would never, if you haven't been born rich, you would never go around saying money can't buy you happiness. I think it's entitled children of 3rd or 4th generation people who have the right to say that and who can afford to say that because they've been there, done that. What else is there to life? But that's when those people have stagnated, in my view, and they are not doing any value creation. Not at work, not in your family. You're not contributing. You could even run a charity. You could run a fund. You could run so many things. And if you're choosing to just sit around and mope and say, money can't buy you happiness, well, then I don't know what to do with you. Because to me, I hear this conversation. It's a very hot topic in our house quite often, old money and new money.
Right.
Oh my God, I love that topic.
Tell me.
I tell my friends whenever they look at me, and you should see the look on their faces, and I go, 100% I'm new money. And they're like, no, you're not. Your dad had money and then, your in-laws had money. I was like, no, but I made this myself. So I am first gen. I'm first generation and I am new money. And they're like, no, because the attachment to that title is that you're crass, you're going to show off, you're going to look like, what's his name? Ranbir Singh.
Ranbir Singh.
Yeah,
with a Gucci.
Exactly. Gucci, which I don't think there's anything wrong with that sometimes. It's okay. If that's what you like, that's what you like. But I'm 100% new money. And in my view, new money is, I built it, I'm enjoying it. Old money is, my grandfather built it. My father made sure I had some of it, and now I'm enjoying it. So which one would you rather be?
Right. I feel like new money is much more of a compliment than old money is.
Exactly.
You're so right. But also now, Sima, question for you. You know, a lot of us, we already struggle with deciding who are your real friends, who are the people who have your best interests at heart. For someone like you, where probably every day you meet people who want access to you, how do you filter who are the real ones?
You know, it's very funny. I was at a wedding recently, and my nephew-in-law turned around and said to me, "You have no idea how many people are trying to be friendly with you." And I was like, "What are you talking about?" And I think he was wrong. He was completely wrong, because there were a lot of times at this wedding where I chose to and happily sat on my own with a drink, and I just people watched. And I love doing that. I do that a lot. So I don't know whether I'm just intimidating or whatever it is. No one approaches.
What do you mean I don't know if I am?
Thank you for that. So, but yeah, literally, it was like I sat alone a lot of the times, and I would sit there wondering, where are these people? Why aren't they coming up to me? I'm right here. It's an open, I'm sitting there open for you to come and have a chat with me. And he was like, I didn't believe him, and I still don't. So I think having grown up in a city where most people know me, most people know my father, know my legacy, know my husband, his family, I don't see us as being targeted in that way ever. I think people know that we have our boundaries and we have our core set of friends that we rely on. And I have mine and my husband has his. I don't think in a healthy marriage, you can ever have a couple friends that you both rely on. I don't think that works. So I have my girlfriends, he has his. He often asks me, am I a soulmate? And I'm like, definitely not. So I tell him a list of people who are. So he's quite devastated.
Not the list.
List. Yeah, like you're not there. So anyway, but I'm just saying, I don't think, I think this whole thing of at work, yes. People want access to me at work. That's a whole different ballgame. You know, then I have gatekeepers. I have my PA. I have my corporate marketing head. They will be the gatekeepers. They will assess if they're worth my time, not worth my time. I don't do business at social events.
Right.
So if I'm at a party, I'm not going to start talking work. I will hand you over one of their numbers and you will come and see me at the office. I think that's a good way to prevent people from getting too much into your personal space without great intentions.
Right. And, you know, you've managed your social life, your fabulousness, your business, everything while being a mom as well. How was that for you when you became a mom, managing everything? Do you think women can have it all?
I definitely think women can have it all. But I think balance isn't about doing all of it. Or I think it's more about forgiving yourself for the things that you can't do. Because, you know, I couldn't go to some parent-teacher days. I couldn't go to some sports days. I wasn't there for some major school concerts. But I think if you're there for the times that really matter, like birthdays, I never miss birthdays. And I make a real ruckus if my husband misses birthdays. So birthdays, anniversaries is like it's a non-negotiable in our house. But I think just forgiving yourself, cutting yourself some slack, I think that's the biggest thing. You know, I was thinking my niece has just had her second baby. And I wanted to ask her, in her generation, does guilt still creep in at any point? Do you still feel like, oh, you know, I'm going to be guilty if I go get my hair done while my baby's at home? I'm going to ask her when I see her this summer. But I just think women just need to shed that one skin of guilt, because I think that's not us. I think it's an institution with us. Our mothers and our grandmothers have convinced us that if we're not at home breastfeeding our child 24 hours a day, we're doing something wrong. And I think that's the part we need to understand, that in their day and time, that was all they did. In our day and time, we do a lot more.
Yeah.
So, and I think getting your kids, like I take my children to work. My children have always come to work. My daughter has sat in on all my meetings. My son tends to come to the office and do his own thing. So giving them access to where you work and showing them that, you know, when I'm not with you, this is what I'm doing is so important. So I think, and also for them to understand that at the end of the day, if I talk about it, right, I am the chairwoman and founder of a company that employs 24,000 plus people. So it's a huge responsibility.
Yeah.
And if I don't show up at work, I'm not saying it'll fall apart. We have a very well-oiled machine with processes and systems. Everything will stay intact. But that little push that comes from a strategic vision that only an owner or a leader can have will be missing.
Right.
I hope so.
I'm sure it does.
I think I'm relevant.
You still are, don't worry. But, this is so interesting because I feel like whenever a woman becomes a mom, they remove her identity from her. Now her whole identity should be about being a mother, which is why I love how you said, no, but I'm also all of these different roles and all of these grow with me. But how did motherhood impact you as a leader? Did it change how you approach leadership?
It definitely calmed me and it made me softer. Although I have to admit, and I have to tell you this story, not in the first year when I gave birth. So I had 3 C-sections. And if anyone's ever had 3 C-sections...
I thought you can't have 3. I thought you can only have 2.
No, I had 3 C-sections. The problem was that because it hurt so much, I was out to hurt the world. So we literally went to the Natural History Museum in New York. I remember, and this was just after my son was born, I think. And we saw a lizard, which was beautiful. I think it was a chameleon, beautiful colors. And I looked at it and I was like, oh my God, that would make a really good bag. My kids, both my girls just looked at me and said, Mom, how can you say that? And I realized because I had 3 C-sections, I'm like, you know what? Let's cut everyone up. So it was such a callous thing to say.
You're every vegan's nightmare.
I was like, okay, all right, fine. I need to curb this a little bit. So, but I'm just saying that, I think it's so important to have children that understand that you have your flaws. I apologize to my kids quite often, especially when I've lost my temper and they weren't really at fault. I will go in and I'll say, I'm really sorry. I should have dealt with this a different way. So they've taught me to a little more humility. They've taught me that I can still be crazy. I still sing on streets when I've finished watching Mamma Mia with them, and they just kind of distance themselves and they're like, we don't know you, which is fun. So I think they've kept me young. They've kept me energized. They still do. And they keep me motivated to keep making the world a better place, even for them to live in. Like, I'm so sad about everything that's happening politically in so many different parts of the world. And I'm so scared for our next generations because, honestly, the amount of wars we've had, the amount of, the amount of refugees, refugee children, these are all going to be adults. And they're all going to be scarred adults, traumatized by their past. So I just hope our kids have the tools to deal with them as members of society.
And while we're talking about your kids as well, you spoke about how you like being the new rich, where, it was all self-made. Do you want your kids to also make their own money? How do you protect them from this?
So it was really funny. I think it was a year and a half or 2 years ago, we flew private from somewhere to somewhere. And I posted, right?
Yeah.
And I was about to post. And my daughter looks at me and she goes, Mom, people who fly private don't post. And I was like, okay, interesting. Sat on it, mulled over it. And then I wrote a post about it. And I said, my daughter said to me, people who fly private don't post. And I said to myself, people who've earned it should and do.
Right.
And that's the thing, right? Like that whole story of a man goes to a hotel and he books a deluxe room and the receptionist tells him, your son was just here and he booked a suite. And he goes, yes, his father's rich. So that's the whole point, right? Like these children are going to grow up as old money. They're not going to grow up as new money. But I'm hoping that they will be first gen in their own businesses.
Okay, very interesting. That must be a challenge though. What's the most challenging part of motherhood?
I think for me, going from talking marriage to then discussing, well, it used to be Fortnite and now it's like every YouTuber out there who's doing something on something. It's like, just swapping the mindset between talking about who to marry as your life partner to discussing, don't fall for this whole boyfriend stuff right now in second year of uni to telling my son that you don't need to stress about uni because there's still a while. It's just that whole gamut of trying to cope with everybody's emotions on a daily basis. Like I'll get calls like, Mom, this happened, Mom, this happened, Mom, this happened. And I have to,
Of course.
And it's so funny. My son will call, and if I don't pick up his call, he'll call his father. And my husband will be like, yeah, hi. And he'll be like, give the phone to Mom. And he's like, tell me what you want. And he's like, I want to eat ice cream. And my husband literally in front of me has said, you can have ice cream. And he goes, no, give the phone to Mom.
I need approval.
Yeah. He's like, yours doesn't count. I need her to say that it's okay to have ice cream. I find it hilarious.
Yeah.
So it's amusing that, I'm taken so seriously. I love it. So, but I think it's cute.
But we all go to our moms for everything. Even till now, in my 30s, I still call my mom for everything, right? It's just instinct.
See, for me, I didn't have a great relationship with my mom. It was always my dad.
Okay.
So even when I wanted to marry Nilesh, it was my dad who found out first. My mom was so against it because, she was a Sindhi and I am a Sindhi. And she's like, I want you to marry a Sindhi, but not just a Sindhi. I want you to marry a Bhaiban Sindhi.
What is
which
that?
is a whole different caste.
Oh
like
my God.
Like different
so
castes.
Smaller
Yeah,
group.
exactly.
Okay.
And here I go ahead and marry someone Kachi who's completely out of the community. And she's like, what is wrong with you? Which part of I want you to marry a Bhaiban Sindhi did you not understand? So, and bless her, I think I gave her so much hell while growing up because I was so different to her. So we never aligned on the way we looked at things, the way we thought about life. She couldn't understand how I could leave my kids and go off traveling for work.
Right.
She just couldn't. So I think part of my guilt also came from her. But in the end, I think she was super proud. She passed away, but she was super proud.
Sorry.
I think, thank you. So for me, but my kids had a great relationship with my mom,
course.
especially my firstborn. My firstborn thinks my mom was like the be all and end all because, of course, they're extra nice to their grandchildren compared to their children.
Of course. They've already done the disciplining now. They can just do the
and they
loving.
get to send them home to
Yeah.
someone else. So, yeah.
Okay. Now, I have a question for you, Sima. Do you think destiny happens to you or do you think you make your destiny happen?
Oh my God, it's my favorite line. I tell my children, which one would you rather be, where life happens to you or you make life happen? So I'm definitely on the side where you make life happen. Because I have this argument incessantly with my friends who believe that, God has planned a destiny for you and that's what it is. And I always give them the example of sliding doors.
The movie.
Yes. And I say, to me, that's what life is. Like if you had made it to the train, that's what your life will be like. So I feel God gives you free will and he gives you paths at every junction. And the path you choose then leads to further choices. I don't think it's a case of you just have to stay there
Life happens
passively and let life happen to you. Which one's more empowering? Which one would you rather believe? So I think for sure I'm on the side of we make life happen.
And I do think that life is a collection of choices that we make. I completely agree with you because I think the same as well. It's like destiny, fate, whatever you call it, or God. There are options in front of you, but you are making your decision based on how you want to proceed. And that's your choice. We always
100%.
have a choice, always.
100%.
And if you were to reflect back on your life, is there a choice that you would change?
I think possibly I do wish that my husband and I had, since we were going to leave our family businesses anyway, I wish we had explored opportunities outside. I wish we had gone to the States or, gone somewhere where the volume, even India, would allow us to be at the scale that we should be considering the amount of effort we put in. So I think I do feel like I wish we had made that choice then. Having said that, I wouldn't swap my life for anything right now.
Right.
So, I think God's done me many, many favors and I feel totally blessed and full of gratitude.
And if that 14-year-old Sima who was at the dining table with your dad were to see you today, what do you think she would tell you?
Hey girl, you killed it. You did what you needed to do and you showed everyone else. I think she would just say, take care of yourself and be more conscious of your health. Because I think that's the one thing I have a regret. Like in the last decade or so, I feel like I should have done more with my health. I've just gone off refined sugar, which I think I should have done a decade ago.
That's hard, but well done.
So yeah, I'm ready to kill everyone who eats a donut in front of me. But I think that's the main thing. Like I wish I would want to tell people more and more so, especially now with the amount of processed food that we eat, and we think we're eating clean when we choose plant protein versus oat milk versus coconut milk. Like I don't think it's real stuff. So I think I just wish I could say, just take care of yourself a little bit more, because health is wealth.
It is.
Never understood it when my dad kept saying it to me. Now I do.
Yeah, and we always just not care about the health. Everything else we look after except for the health. We think we have forever.
Yeah.
But, and now that we are wrapping up, Sima, what advice do you have for every young woman who's looking up to you as the success story? What advice do you have to them?
So first of all, I think there are way more better success stories to look at. And I think women in general have it right. We just need to allow ourselves to be ourselves. I think, allow your difference to make a difference. Because going up in that boardroom or in that, wherever you might work or wherever you might show up, to think that you need to be like everyone else would be killing your individuality and exactly killing what God intended for you. So why would you do that? Like, I think just letting your own differences shine and make a difference is so important.
That's so well said. And I always say the same thing as well, Sima. I always say we just need to get out of our own way. That's the main thing. Well, Sima, thank you so much. But now what is there for us to look out for Sima in the near future?
I'm going to launch something new. It's coming up. It's a concept that we've been working on. Amazing. And we think it's time that we started doing this. So I'm personally involved in this particular new project. It's a homegrown project.
Amazing.
So we're excited about that, and I will keep you posted.
Done.
And of course, you and I have a date with Oprah soon enough.
So I'll see you then.
Yeah, definitely. I'll see you then.
Perfect. Thank you so much for being here, Sima.
Thank you for having me.